Okay, I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes going over some basic functions in Word Online. I know y'all don't always use it. You don't use it very often, so some of you don't know how to change margins, um, orientation, things like that. So what I have open here is a blank default Word document, and it's open in Word Online, not the desktop app. So you are going to be asked in several assignments to change fonts, to change margins, to change line spacing. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. So when you open a document, it should default to 1-inch margins all the way around. So if you want to change that, you're going to come right here to Layout, and you have an option for Margins. Now you have some preset margins. This is the normal. This is the way it defaults. You can set narrow margins if you want them to at a 1/2 inch. You have your left and right at 3/4. You've got wide margins. You can also do custom margins. So for our like business writing letter that you just did, you want to change the margin to 2-inch at the top. So you'll click on custom margins and then just change this to a 2-inch margin and then click OK. And if you notice, your cursor has moved down on the page. Something else you're going to want to be sure you do is that your spacing before and after sentences is set on 0. And that really is something that should just be set as a default. But otherwise, you'll end up with an extra line between each sentence and between each paragraph, and you don't want that. You also want to make sure that your indentions are set at 0. This is for your paper as a whole. There are times where you will use indentions, but you don't want your entire paper indented. Your size, most of the time you're going to be on 8.5 by 11. But if for some reason you needed a custom size like an envelope, or you're typing on legal paper, you can change that in here. And then your orientation just changes it from portrait to landscape. Okay. Portrait is, of course, where you're going to type for most of your writing for school. You might put it on landscape if you're doing something creative. For your margins, you want to, most of the stuff that we do should be set on Times New Roman and 12-point font. The other thing I want to show you is how to do a proper indent. Okay, so a couple of things. I want to show you how to indent properly, and also I want to talk about these underlines. So if you have anything that's underlined in red or blue and Word is trying to tell you there might be a problem, and you need to check it. If you just hover over whatever is underlined and click, it will give you a suggestion. Now, in this case, I want the word to be indent. So I'm just going to click ignore, and the line will go away. That will happen when you have things, proper names it doesn't recognize, things like that. If it will also underline sometimes in green if you have crazy grammar issues, but most of the time it's going to be in blue. Anything that you have underlined in blue or red, please check, because it's either a spelling or a grammar problem, or at least Word thinks it is, and it's trying to help you fix it. You also have this editor up here. You can use this editor. It will tell you how many spelling, grammar issues you have. It will also help you refine your writing to make it better. So you can look for acronyms, clarity, or things like sentence structure problems that make your reading difficult to understand. Are you being too wordy? Should it be more concise? Looks for formality, things like that. You should use this. Okay, so you can see it's telling me I have 2 punctuation convention issues, and that's this right here. And if I click on it, it will tell me actually, open suggestion. It'll tell me what it thinks I need to do. So I just need to fix that period. Okay. And the same here. And those are showing up because I'm old school and I put two spaces between um, my sentences when I type. It's because I learned the old way of typing. But if you don't put a space in there at all, it'll show up. If you put two, it'll show up. Um, but it will also sometimes re-underline things that you don't need underlined. Okay, so as far as formatting, do not use your space bar to format anything. If you need to indent the first line of your paragraphs in any essay that you write, and to do that, you press the Tab key, which is on the upper left-hand side of your keyboard, and it will automatically indent your first line 5 spaces. Okay, so do not use the space bar for formatting. You have, of course, your other font formatting options up here. When you type for class, Times New Roman 12 point is MLA standard. You do not type in bold. You do not type in italics. Do not underline. Do not highlight things. Don't type in any color other than black. When you're doing creative things, that's a little different, like your bucket list, for example. But for academic writing, always use if your professor or teacher doesn't tell you to use a specific font, make sure it's one that's easy to read. So things like Calibri, Times New Roman, Arial, Arial Rounded, Baskerville. Okay, don't use things like things that are in cursive or that are big, bold, blocky, handwriting or any of that stuff. It's easier, honestly, if you just put it on Times New Roman as your default, because most college professors are still going to require that for MLA as well. And then, of course, your fonts need to be set at 12. Indent. So if you need to indent a whole paragraph, you would use these keys. So that moves over the whole thing. That moves it back. Of course, you have bullets, numbering here, and this is your text alignment. So, for example, your business letter was lined up on the left margin, okay, and that's what this is doing. Titles would be centered. You really probably won't do anything in class where you'll line things up on the right margin, but you could. And then justification really is something that people use for block formatting, where it just stretches out your sentence so that it stretches out the space between your letters so that it goes from one margin to the other. You can use that if you like the way it looks in your essays. I have no problem with it. A lot of people use it for business letter writing. Okay, that's all I'm going to show you this time. We will get into some more advanced Word and PowerPoint layouts as we get into presentations. This is stuff you guys are going to need for college and if you're going into any kind of business. So I want to make sure you understand the basics of how to use it all.